Today we're going to talk about how to create your own visual using data in Microsoft Excel. Then we'll talk about how to place that visual into a Microsoft Word document and ensure that it's placed correctly and professionally so that it's accessible to your reader. Let's get started. When you're researching a topic, you're likely to come across statistics and data that you want to include in your own writing. You might come across this information written in a text or in a visual like the one you see here. It's important to know how to make your own visual in case you don't like the way that the visual you found looks, or perhaps you want to not include some of the information because it's not relevant to what you're talking about. If you find data written in a text, you might decide that it would be easier for your audience to understand if it was conveyed through a visual. The first step in creating your own visual is to enter the data that you want to represent in your visual into the columns in Microsoft Excel. Take a look at columns A and B. You can see that I've taken data from YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Twitter that's found here in the image on the right and entered it into these columns in Microsoft Excel. In my research project, I'm not interested in Pinterest, Snapchat, or WhatsApp, so I didn't include that information. Once you've entered your data into the columns within Excel, it's time to create your own visual. I'm going to delete this image since we don't need it anymore. The first step to create your own visual is to highlight all of the data that you entered in the columns. Next, navigate to the menu at the top of the page and select Insert. Then head over toward the middle of the screen and select Recommended Charts. This is a nice feature in Excel because it gives you a look at what the best choices would be to represent your data visually. The first suggestion is a clustered column chart. The second suggestion is a pie chart. Third is a clustered bar chart, and fourth is a funnel. Most of the time, a clustered column, pie, or clustered bar chart are the best choices. We're going to go ahead and select the clustered column for our project. Now that we have our basic chart, we need to do a little bit more work to make sure that it's properly labeled and easy to understand. We can also make changes to the color, the background, and add a border. The first thing we'll do is change the chart title. This is a simple process. Use your mouse to double-click and highlight the existing text. Change the title and then click outside of the text box. You can change the font style, size, or color by clicking on the text box, navigating to the Home menu, and using the font tools here. Our next step is going to be to add labels to the axes. With your graph selected, choose the top option from the menu, Chart Elements. When you click, you'll see that there are a number of options for you to choose from. Select Axis Titles, and you'll see two new text boxes appear in your chart. One at the bottom for the X-axis, and one to the left for the Y-axis. Naming the axes is just the same as naming your graph. Double-click in the text box, highlight the existing text, and change the label. It's important to carefully consider what labels you choose for both axes. You want your reader to be able to understand the information presented at a glance. Another helpful feature in the Chart Elements menu is the data labels. Selecting this box will place the specific percentage on top of each bar. This is useful if you want your audience to see the exact numbers. Now let's move on to changing the color. Select the paintbrush from the menu on the right. Navigate to the Color tab. If you'd like to change the color of the bars, you can do so here. If you'd like to add a little bit more polish, navigate back to the Style and select from one of the different options. Finally, let's take a look at how to add a border. Select your chart and navigate to the top menu. Select Format Navigate to the center and choose Shape Outline. We'll choose a green to go with the color of the bars. It's hard to see it here, so we'll make it a little thicker. Navigate back to the Shape Outline tab. Go down to Weight and make the border as thick as you'd like. Now you know how to create a visual using data in Microsoft Excel. There are lots of other options. I encourage you to explore YouTube videos to learn them. Now let's learn how to put your visual into a Microsoft Word document. Right-click on your chart and select Copy. Open up a Microsoft Word document. Right-click and navigate over to the last Paste option. This pastes your visual in as a picture. The next step is sizing and placing your visual. To resize the visual, click on it and use the circles at the multiple ends of the pictures to decrease or increase the size. A good rule of thumb is that a visual should be about 3 by 3 inches, but you don't have to adhere to this strictly. This particular visual is not a square, so it's not going to be 3 by 3. It might be 3 by 4, and that's okay. When sizing your visual, make sure that the numbers and letters are still easy for the reader to see. This looks like a good size. Next, it's time to place your visual within the text. Select the Layout Options button and navigate down to the top left option, which is Square. This option lets you move the visual throughout your text and pushes the words to surround it. We want to place our visual near the text that's discussing it. In this case, paragraph 2 is about social media and discusses social media usage for different platforms. So this is where we want our visual. The next step is to name the visual. Select it, navigate to the reference menu at the top of the screen, and select Insert Caption. Figure 1 will be provided for you. Add a colon and a title for your visual. This title can be the same as the visual's title itself. There's no need to change any of the settings, so we can select OK. Word automatically creates a space underneath the visual for the title. One more important rule. You should reference the visual itself within the paragraph that is discussing the content. Here's an example. Thanks for watching this video about creating visuals in Microsoft Excel and placing them in Microsoft Word.